I had been working, uh, just going from one studio to another, doing commercials, kind of freelancing. And I'd worked with Benny Washam. And Benny Washam, like I said earlier, had been one of Chuck Jones' animators back at Warner Brothers. And so Benny and I got to be pretty good friends. And he was a real, one of the top animators. I mean, I thought he was compared with any of the Disney animators in the kind of quality that he did. And one of his claims to fame was that he, on Bob's Big Boy, he designed the little character, the boy that they're holding. He did the design because he had worked with Bob Wyans, I think that's the name, the guy that created Bob's Big Boy. They had both worked in some restaurant, in a short order kind of little restaurant, and Benny was a cartoonist, and so Bob Wyans went off and started this restaurant, and asked Benny to make a drawing for him, and I think he'd also invited Benny to be a partner with him, but Benny says no, I want to rather go into animation, and I'm glad he did, but he did contribute that one drawing, and so knowing Benny, so I we're working doing some commercials at Ray Patton Studios, and then Chuck Jones at the time started a studio with MGM, an animation. MGM decided to reopen their studio to do Tom and Jerry shorts because they had stopped doing them when they closed the studio with Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera, and they found that there was still a demand for those cartoons. So by that time, Bill and Joe had already started Hanna-Barbera, and so they got Chuck Jones to start up a new unit to do just the Tom and Jerry's. So Chuck asked Benny, so he just got his old unit back. He got Ken Harris and Dick Thompson and Tom Ray and Benny to come in and be the animators, and of course he had Maurice Noble there, and so I said, "Is there any chance of me going over there?" And so he says, "No, there's you don't need any more animators." He said, "However, we're going to need one assistant animator." So I said, "I'll take it." Because I just wanted to work with Chuck, So I'd been animating, but I just needed the opportunity. Or I just felt that that's one thing I wanted to do because I'd admired Chuck's work since I had worked at Warner's Theater in Fresno, and sure enough, I got hired and was assisting Benny and Don Towsley is another animator that Chuck had brought in. Has been an ex-Disney animator, and so there I was working with Chuck as an assistant. Now, one thing about Chuck that I admired tremendously is that he gave opportunities to the assistants, to the younger kids. At that time, I considered myself a younger kid, and that he would give scenes to animate from the shorts, and so I would get a little stack of scenes to animate in my spare time, because during the day I was actually doing my assistant work, and so I remember one day we're standing around the Moviola watching the dailies, the pencil tests, and so I'm standing there with the other animators, with Chuck and Benny and Ken and Tom and Dick and the other guys. And Chuck is there looking at the scenes, and then he says, "Who animated that scene?" I said, "I did, Chuck." He says, "You're not an assistant." He says, "You're an animator." And to hear Chuck Jones say that, I mean, that to me was the ultimate compliment for Chuck, to actually think that I was an animator. To get that kind of approval was to me, one the ultimate praise. So then I was an animator after that on a lot of the projects that we did there. One of the things was Chuck did like his own take on Tom and Jerry, and again bringing his experience from doing the Roadrunner and Tom and Bugs Bunny and those, and again one thing that I liked about it was that the full animation, a lot of energy, a lot of the timing that get to study Chuck's sense of timing, a sense of setting characters up, and payoff gags and that kind of stuff, and so that to me was what I enjoyed is what I learned from Chuck is and getting these two different characters, one little guy and one the big guy, and who just cannot catch the little guy. It's the little guy always and if you look at the cartoons, it's just a series of gags. And so after the last gag, that cartoon ends, but it's there's no beginning or middle or end. You kind of set it up like one challenge, and then you try to top that one and top that one and top that, and then you have a little payoff, and that's the end of the cartoon. But so that's kind of cartoons that I really enjoy working on, and there's not too many of those being made anymore.